Right, well, we've been speaking about skills, or sometimes the South Africans' teams lack thereof, and there's one man who knows all about that, and it's really a pleasure to have him back on SuperSport after a couple of months. He's been very busy doing what he loves doing best. I'm talking about former All Blacks coach and SuperSport pundit John Mitchell, who joins us on the Skype from KZN. Mitch, absolute pleasure to have you on TMO. You've been back doing what you love doing best. What's it been like coaching the USA Eagles?
Yeah, hi Xola, hi Bros.
Hey.
Hi Brady, hi Mots. Yeah, no, it's been a busy period. Just got back from 9 days of planning in the States. A young group at the start of the year, 16 of them have come forward. Players all over the world, and trying to get a group together for June, including a few of the sevens backs. So we should be a bit stronger in June.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic that you really have got a chance to immerse yourself in your favourite pastime. And I know we've had a lot of chats, off-the-record chats, but you've learned so much, not necessarily on the rugby field, but away slightly from the world of rugby. Are you able to apply those learnings, even things that you learned in this studio?
Geez, you got to understand the longer you stay out of this game, the more you miss out. And I've never learned so much in the last 7 months being around outstanding coaches. I'm very fortunate to have some around me myself, but also not being a threat as a Tier 2 nation. There's a lot of top organisations that have allowed me into their environments to learn off them.
Well, Mitch, we obviously want to talk about skills, and the Kiwi teams obviously through the years have displayed a really intense level of skills development. And my first question to you, what is it that gives them that added edge? Is it just that they spend so much time developing the skill as youngsters? Because I'd probably assume that South Africa is the same, that you coach players standard things. What is it that the Kiwis pick up as juniors, as kids, as schoolboys, that they're able to carry into professional rugby?
Yeah, it's a difficult question because I think both countries have strengths and a lot of similarities, but I think a Kiwi boy tends to have a ball in his hand a lot earlier and for a lot longer as well. And then I think because the country is very centralised in its thinking, it optimises its resources. So should a coach be deficient in a particular province or town or club, it's very easy to get access to a top coach to offer advice. But there is one theme or two themes that it comes through for me. They're very big on run and they're very big on skills. Those are the two things that have to stay with you throughout your career. And they allow the training load or the training age to take its course over a period of time. So spending time in the gym is part of it, but it's got to be functional, and it needs to transfer in the game. So I think the trainers are very rugby specific in my view.
Mitch, you're looking good and great to see you. I'm sure you're enjoying it in the States. Now, I just want to, you speak about it, you're basically talking about the environment that the players being brought up in. Is it that environment that's so important? Or what influence does the gene pool have on the shaping that player that comes through as well? Because we know you've got some fantastic genes as far as your islanders in New Zealand with the Tongans, the Fijians, etc.
Yeah, the school system can be a little bit difficult for the European boy because the genetics of the Polynesian is huge. I mean, in Auckland, a large percentage of the European boys are playing in the second 15s. And so what you get is, I guess, they have to learn how to tackle. They have to learn how to beat the man, I guess, and take the weaker part of the body. So all those sorts of things, I guess, eventually an equilibrium arrives because they gain confidence by playing at that level. But I think there's so much more accountability in New Zealand on the athlete, and there's standards. And the standards are very clear at every level. And for you to get to the next level, you must meet those standards in order to progress.
Mitch, it's Breyton here. Good to see you, mate. It's been a while. I must say,
Hi,
we
Brady.
miss you in the studio at times, but I'm glad that you're having fun in the States. My question to you is, Mitch, obviously you've got to try and change the mindset and make those players believe that they can beat anybody in the world eventually. But what has your biggest challenge been?
Yeah, my biggest challenge is realising that, we're kind of 2 kilometres off per man in a whole 80 minutes performance. That's kind of the physical measurement that we've got to bridge. Lucky we've got time to bridge that gap, but that means other sides will move it forward. Probably our width of pass is probably less than a metre in terms of execution. So you've got to be very, very careful that you don't over-focus on execution, but have more of a focus on intention and effort, and adopt a style of football and a framework that actually suits our skill set at the moment and look to evolve it.
Hi, Mitch. It's Mats here. I've got a tweet here from TT Baker. He asks, are South African teams better playing running rugby rather than territorial kicking?
I think you can play both, but it just requires decision-making around when you're made static. Certainly in your back half of your football field, you should be looking to move the ball to space. But if you happen to seek contact, well, then it will become a lot more static. Players have adopted their choke tackle, which we saw the Sharks do with great effect against the Hurricanes. So once you get that static ball, you've got no choice but to kick, whether you kick long to give a team to attack back at you, or whether you kick a contestable football, depends on, I guess, what you've got standing. So you have to prepare for both situations.
Yeah.
Mitch, you are ideally placed because you've obviously coached the Chiefs, you've coached the Force, you've coached the Lions in all 3 different conferences. When you've got that young player coming into your professional squad, you've got the, 19, 20, 21-year-old. What are the differences across the 3 conferences with that individual when he arrives in your squad as far as his maturity and skill set is concerned as a rugby player?
Yeah, I think if there's one difference, probably a lot of us in the world focus on the mistake or what the player doesn't have, rather than actually the strengths of the individual. And if I think that there's one key area of development that where New Zealand are ahead of us, is they tend to look for the transfer of the skill, so they're prepared to ride the development of the skill, and that may take time. So they'd rather see the intent of the skill in training, as well as the intent or the transfer in the game. And if it doesn't come off initially, they will still stay with that athlete in terms of that waiting for that skill to arrive. Whereas sometimes, if we have the negative mindset or seeing the glass half full, we'll put that away. That's not working. Don't try that again. So I think it really comes down to how you communicate the transfer of skill in your culture that determines whether players will keep trying something that's new.
Oh, Mitch, you know the world of TV and time is never on our side. But I got a question from Owen Nkumane, who just could not stay out of the conversation. And he asks, are South African rugby players too used to taking instruction rather than making their own decisions, or being enabled to make their own decision? And the second part of that question, and please be brief, is if you were in charge for a day, what would you change?
Yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, you still have to contrive, so the players need direction. But how far do you contrive? 3 phases for me is sufficient, and then having a shape to fall back into. Should it be quick or should you be static? So it's pretty simple. You've really got to let players have the ownership and input into the process. I think possibly a lot of us have made mistakes where we've actually overprescribed, and players stick to it.
Mitch, just finally, I got to ask you the question. You obviously back in South Africa. Any South African boys you want to attract to the US?
Brady, you wouldn't believe there's a few popping up over there, and they're already there, mate. They've got a bit of a twang as well, which I find surprising. So, but there is I don't know if you saw the Zim tournament, the junior tournament. There was a young player there called Henko Gemeses, and not even I pronounced it properly, but you should hear the American manager when they try to pronounce his surname. It's very, very funny. But yeah, that boy's got a lot a lot of ability. Probably not a loose forward going forward, but certainly has the ability to play hooker based on his physical profile.
Mitch, rugby is the fastest growing sport in America. It's very exciting where you are. Claudia Ranieri just recently said, never did I imagine this. Did you ever imagine being a coach in America?
Was never, to be fair. And now they've got a professional rugby tournament of 5 teams, and New York hasn't even joined yet. The standard of rugby is not fantastic, but it's not what you see now. It's actually what you'll see in 2 years' time. Should this tournament stick, and it's funded by one man, it's fantastic for the domestic players because it's making them accountable daily as a professional. And we might not see the results in the next World Cup, but certainly America, if they stick to this plan and eventually have a super side, in 12 years' time, they could definitely be more than a competitive nation against tier ones. They could certainly be a force.
Well, thank you so much, Mitch, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we miss you so much in studio when you are back in Johannesburg. Do come in and visit us and bring us nice things. Yay!
I miss you guys.
American
There's lots of nice chocolates there, Mots.
I'd love some. Thank you, Mitch. That is John Mitchell. Always a pleasure speaking to him.